We're live.
We are live.
And
Mike, you know I love a purple sweater, Mike. You know I do.
I wore it just for actually. I was supposed to wear red, right? It's Let me show the
Oh my gosh.
Valentine's. Erica's got the hearts going back there.
Wow, so nice.
So I don't know. Folks. I don't know what I was thinking. I go and put a purple sweater.
Well, I feel like purple is still in the. It's still kind of a Valentine's Day.
I'll make up for it. I'll move over a little here just to get the heart in there.
Look at that.
There we
Perfect.
go. All right.
Now I feel we've got ambiance.
Now we've got the Valentine's. We can identify what today is. It's Valentine's Day 2021. Derek, we messed up on something.
What? What's that? We
didn't say anything on our show about our 1 year anniversary, which was on February 4th.
That's right. We did mention it off
why
air.
do guys forget anniversaries? What is it? Like we had a 1 year anniversary and we barely even cared about it.
I know we did. We just mentioned it. We immediately forgot.
If your social media didn't remind you of a post,
that's a good point. I would have never
even thought. I think somewhere like a year and a half into it, I would have said, I think we've been doing this a year.
Wow, I guess.
Yeah. When did we start? And we would have been like, I don't know. Let's
like
check
April,
the file. I don't know. Here we are. February 4th was our 1 year anniversary. I'd like to say happy anniversary.
Oh, hey, happy anniversary, Mike.
And I'm going to also say happy anniversary to my wife, Erica. Today we are 21 years married.
Oh my God. Would you get married in 1990? Is that the math?
We got married. Imagine that would be.
Oh, no, wait. No, yeah. No, that math is wrong. 2000. The year 2000.
2000, yeah.
It is 2021, Derek. That's pretty simple.
So it's one year anniversary. That's interesting. 10 days apart is the content anniversary is February 4th. So we're 1 year. And then my marriage anniversary is February 14th.
Mm-hmm. Events of equal importance in my opinion.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So
I know it's hard to believe, and we always do. We have a little feather in our cap about this, Mike, is that we are not technically a quarantine podcast. We did record the first episode February 4th. That's admittedly earlier than I would have thought it was.
Yeah, February 4th. Don't you guys?
Johnny Scott, congrats on 21 years. That's a whole grown person.
Yeah.
Your marriage can vote, Mike. Your marriage can buy a beer today.
Buy a beer today. Yeah, that's right. we can do that now. So we're gonna go send our marriage out for beers now.
Yeah, because you don't.
We're gonna stay home. We're just gonna deliver it to us.
You hear a knock on the door.
Sounds like I'm married to Amazon all of a sudden.
Well, in a way, so we pretty much all are. So
we all are, yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, February 4, Mike. We did that one of the only content episodes, unfortunately, to be IRL. Boy, we were just a couple of kids back then, weren't we? We didn't know what was going on and what was going to come out, how it was going to be.
Oh my God! Actually, speaking for myself, I've grown a whole lot in that year. Damn it!
Yeah, I know. Quite frankly, I was a different person back then.
Quite frankly, yeah, me too. To be quite honest, between the pandemic, between doing the show, the show kicked me into reading gear.
Me too. Again, I always say after we did the first 5 episodes of this, I was like, yeah, that's all I got. I gotta. Yeah, that's all the things I have to say.
It really pushed me. Like, either I was gonna keep repeating things, which was like everything I absolutely have gathered,
right?
Or I was gonna go gather some more stuff somehow.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny.
Forced me to dig in a little more, which has been, I guess, selfishly beneficial.
Heck yeah,
but also, I should actually to the loyal content fans go back and listen to episode 1, because to our credit, actually, there are some, I think, good things in there, and that's where we established a fundamental content concept, which is the selfless selfishness, which was a really kind of like revelatory the way we came up with that as well, insofar as we didn't know where we were gonna get to, and yeah, I can picture it well, Mike. So who knows? Hopefully someday, and I really do hope that we will be able to in-person episodes.
Wow.
At some point.
We thought that this was going to be just a bit, remember? And we were like, oh yeah, we'll do it now. And then, when, in a couple weeks when we get back, we're trying to come up with ideas of how we were going to do it and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really something, man. This thing just totally, I mean, beyond surprised everybody. I think I'm definitely not the only one. I think everybody's feeling just blown away. The other day, I was just like, wow. Telling Erica that just in a little while it'll be a year like of official quarantine.
Yeah, we are rapidly approaching that.
Yeah, like of like a legit, I think was it in March maybe?
I want to say that
early March or late February.
It was like March 13th.
Yes,
because
good one. Yes.
I believe I, as a matter of fact, had my first comedy show that I was producing at a legit comedy club was scheduled for March 15th. So that was canceled.
Man. Talk about a career.
Just missed it.
Man.
Yeah.
And I'd like to, before I forget, because once we start getting going, I'll forget. Well, I'd probably forget if we didn't. But no, and I want to thank you because, man, you've been doing some great stuff. The reading the book, the interviews, just awesome. And I want to just encourage everybody, tune in. The book, I've read the book by Alan Watts, and but man, I love the way you read. I was listening to you do chapter 3, and I was getting stuff that I didn't get. You know how it is. You read a good book, I think you can probably read it 20 to 30, 40 times and still find something you didn't find before.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were reading it, first of all, it was fun, it was entertaining, and I was nice because I like how you stop at some points and you kind of talk about it a little bit, or you even refer to the show, and we've spoken about that, and you'll get into that, and it's great because it made me see some things, or maybe something I thought of a little bit when I was reading it that I didn't really get into too much. And I think that's actually a benefit of listening to someone else read a book that I never thought of before. Because if you read it, it's one thing you listen to an audiobook, they're just reading it. But when you listen to someone read it and then they're sort of putting their thoughts in between it, it's like getting a whole nother perspective on a book.
Yeah, I mean, that's
cool.
First off, thank you for saying that, Mike. And that is kind of how I see it, is like it's a little bit of an expanded kind of audiobook where it's not just a straightforward thing. And I do try and tie it into the show. And, we've talked about the book a bunch before. And honestly, there's things that I am getting out of it too, of course. And like you said, you can read a book 100 times and get different kind of things out of it. And honestly, I've had a lot of fun with it. I mean, first and foremost, I'm doing it selfishly because I do think it's fun.
Well, that's why it's good, right? There we go.
Yeah, precisely.
And I'd like to put something else that you reminded me of, and I want to say it now because I don't want to forget it. We're working on the intro for the show. We've never done like a video version of an intro, everyone out there, and it's pretty cool. I didn't want to put it up yet because
it's in beta, but it's looking great.
It's looking cool. I'm enjoying it. And there's funny aspects to it, but it didn't have anything from me and Derek. And I was just thinking, since we're talking about the early episodes, we're talking about our 1 year. I would like to find the clip where we were talking about we were like, what? I don't know if you remember which episode it was. It may be first, second, I'm not sure, but it's one of the very first ones. And we say, man, we have this really fast life, and we're always on the go, and we don't get a chance to think about these things, the stuff we want to talk about on the podcast. And and we were talking about our lunch, and then we said, yeah, but what would it possibly happen in the world for everyone to slow down? And we couldn't think of anything. We couldn't think. We literally,
there's
we looked at each
absolutely
other.
nothing.
We were like, what could it be? I don't know. I think we mentioned war, other stuff, and we're like, yeah, but we don't want that. And we're like,
No.
so what's the? And then we ended up just like, I guess there's not going to happen, so we're going to have to figure this out without that. And then the whole world stopped. And I think that's pretty cool.
I don't say we caused it, but
Hey, if we were starting a cult, we'd probably do that.
definitely.
We are, and and
that would be our genesis.
We'd recontextualize it, and we'd start to scare people, and put fear of God into everyone, and
absolutely,
and then then we'd get the tithes and offerings.
That's right, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's Sunday morning. Yeah,
that's
that's funny. That's how I felt too when I woke up this morning.
Yeah, hey,
I felt the same way,
especially given it's a Saint Valentine's Day. It's an important one.
And this is somebody from our private group. I don't know who it is, but hello, good morning.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that about the reading series there, Mike. We will be back Tuesday evening, of course, with chapter 4. And I will say, just a little caveat, little advertisement, that you can jump in at any time. There are each chapter is really kind of its own essay, let's say. Don't feel like, or you could go back on YouTube and watch them all. I do think I'm gonna have to redo the first chapter for anybody out there who would check that out, because I think I tried to do too much on just one computer, and my computer couldn't handle it. So
well, listen, I'll tell you, you've I don't want to embarrass you here because I'm like praising you so much, but you've really improved, like from first to second.
It has gotten better.
Third, man, like it's like very exponential. Like you could see the beginning, you were figuring it out. Second, man, by the third one, it was like, and it you know what I like about it too? It's like, I'm sure I like to read, but it's kind of fun to like be lazy.
Yeah, well,
let you read.
Exactly.
Derek reads it, and then you even, to a certain extent, I'm not even, I'm doing my own automatic analyzing of something like, wow, I never, and then you'll jump in with your thoughts. So it's almost like, it's like revelation through conversation, but like where you're doing it within your own psyche, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm getting that, and then I'm getting my own too. So it's like this little gumbo that happens, which you would not get by just reading a book on your own. So it's kind of cool. It's an interesting thing. I'm getting a little scientific about it, but I think it's pretty damn cool.
I hope that you are correct about that, Mike. And people are busy. A lot of things going on. Maybe you don't have time to sit down for 2 hours and take a chapter. So let me do it for you.
Yeah. And I'm all for it. I'm loving it.
Thank you. On the heels of that too, I would like to thank our Wednesday guest this past Wednesday, Zach Kendaji, dear friend of the show, for joining me in a nice little discussion. And that being said, I'd like to jump into a couple things here, Mike, if you'll allow it.
Yes, please.
So last week we were talking about one of the things we mentioned was we really jumped off from a quote that Issa had brought in, where she was mentioning, maybe the most important thing that we can give another person is our attention. That truly listening to somebody might be the most compassionate thing we can do. And, I had brought up the difference between listening and hearing. Well, you can hear somebody. Yeah, I hear you. But listening requires a level of compassion, a level of openness to truly understand not just what someone's saying, but how they're saying it. And there's Issa. Good morning. Just mentioned her. Understand not just the words that are coming out, but the context, the intent, and where this person's coming from. So then, we had talked about, well, that's, I like to think how we do this show, Mike, is we have such a baseline of compassion and love for one another that we really can listen to each other quite well, because we're not trying to get it over on one another. We're never arguing on the show, and yet we make progress, I like to think, towards a deeper understanding. And the question then becomes, okay, well, look, that's easy to do amongst friends, Sure, yeah, you have everybody has nice conversations with their friends. Maybe they reveal something, and that's great. But this is great. Here, look at Rights and Wrongs podcast. You have to understand to agree, but you don't have to agree to understand. Whew. Love that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, we might have to. Thanks, Rights and Wrongs podcast.
I know. Subscribe to Rights and Wrongs podcast.
Yeah, we might have to steal that.
And so
hopefully you haven't copywritten that, because
the question is then, like, well, how do we bring that level of compassion and understanding to every interaction that we have? Because obviously that's much more difficult. And it makes me think of a story I've mentioned weeks and weeks ago, but, Ram Dass in the 70s put out a series of albums, and it was his lectures and stuff like that. I think it was called Love, Serve, and Devotion. And his dad, who was like a Republican, I think he was like, on the board of a railroad or something like that, says, wait, Rich, how much are you selling these things for? And Ram Dass says, just a little bit more than it costs to make them. And he says, Rich, you're putting out it's like a 5-album set. You could make a lot of money off these things. And Ram Dass said, well, Dad, remember that case? His dad was a lawyer, of course, as well. Remember that case you did for Uncle Richie a couple weeks ago? Yeah. That was actually a pretty tough case. I had to do a lot of research for that thing. Yeah, well, how much did you charge Uncle Richie for doing that? His dad. Rich, he's family. I'm not going to charge him anything for it. And Ram Dass said, Dad, that's my problem, is I can't find anybody who isn't Uncle Richie.
That's awesome, man. I love that one.
And so obviously that is something worth working toward, is seeing everyone. Another Ram Dass story briefly was his Guru Maharaji in India. One day Ram Dass, very frustrated, because of course the guru is a person who not just praises you, but more often, in fact, pushes you, challenges you. Ram Dass, very frustrated, was like, look, I'm sick of all these goofy little teachings. Would you just tell me what it is I'm supposed to do, and then I'll do it, okay? And his guru said, love everyone and tell the truth. Which, of course, the obvious retort is, well, the truth is I don't love everybody, okay? But that's not the love that his Guru Maharaji was talking about. He was talking about the fundamental basis of compassion that exists in society in every moment. The mere fact that people go to a grocery store and they stand in line and wait their turn. That is a tremendously compassionate act, because by all measure of history, you should walk into a grocery store, take whatever you want, kill anyone who got in the way, and leave. There is compassion all over the place.
Yeah.
And so when you might feel X, Y, and Z about your neighbors, but when a meteor is coming towards Earth and you're hiding together underneath a rock, you're turning to that person saying, are you okay? All right, let's get through this. That's that deep level of compassion, which is always there. We just need to maybe focus on it a little bit more. So that's why I brought up Zach at the beginning of this. Is Zach and I had a nice discussion about, well, it's nice to be, we constantly talk on the show about like a lack of community, where we're so individualized, atomized nowadays. Well, Zach and I are in the New York City comedy community, which is a community insofar as, there is a community that exists nowadays. However, what corrupts that is what corrupts so many other things in this world is the business side of it, the competitive side to it. Of course, some of that is natural, but let's be honest, it's juiced by the American value system. And so as much as you are a community and there's a certain level of we're in this together kind of thing, and we're doing a similar thing so we can work together and learn together, there's also like, look, there's only 4 spots on this show, so I better get one, so don't text that person, screw that person, I don't like this person, and this competitive kind of thing. So, but what Zach and I were discussing, and Zach, to his credit, he really is a person who walks the walk, talks the talk. And Zach said, I feel like our purpose in life is to spread love. I really think that's, if there is a reason why we are here, that's it. Yeah. Mostly because that's what feels good to myself, to anybody else. So I'm gonna jump back to rights and wrongs here. English is a limited language. If I'm not mistaken, we only have 27 words for emotions, where others are hundreds. That's another. We should jump back to that at some point, Mike, because we've been talking a little bit about language lately too.
To go into synchronicity, I've been reading a book on Native American spirituality.
Oh, good for you!
And I wanted to read something exactly about that. So Rights and Wrongs podcast, stick around, because little synchronicity going on here. Your comment is right where I was thinking of going in a little while. So thank you for that.
And so, Zach truly is a person who's very kind. He's always been super nice to me and to anybody I've seen him around. And so he really walks the walk. And I do think he has a great point. And something we've been talking about, of course, on the show too, is if there is a point of life, I think it is that God is love, that we are here to bring compassion and love into the world. And so I just want to read a quick passage from actually the next book that I decided I'm going to read on the reading series, which is going to be A Return to Love by Miss Marianne Williamson.
How did I know that was going to be it?
I had to do it. I had to do it. But this was...
By the way, I purchased it.
You did. Yeah. Fantastic, man.
So I'll probably be doing that one with you.
You'll be right along with me. I'll
be watching it and reading it.
You get double time on that. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's a little bit long, but I think we can kind of really pick it apart from a number of different angles. This is really, when I read this, I took my breath away a little bit. And this is a pretty succinct illustration of the principle of how God is love. She says, God as love is constantly expanding, flourishing, and creating new patterns for the expression and attainment of joy. And isn't that true? Like, there are constantly new ways and new things to be excited about in your life, interpersonally or materially even. Yeah. There's all these new kind of fun new things, ways to be connected, ways to be stimulated, whatever. Mm-hmm. When our minds, through focus on love, are allowed to be open vessels through which God expresses, our lives become the canvases for the expression of that joy. That's the meaning of our lives. We are here as physical representations of a divine principle. To say that we're on earth to serve God, again, sometimes people get upset with some of the serving God, prostrating kind of thing. To say that we're on earth to serve God means that we are on earth to love. We weren't just randomly thrown onto a sea of rocks. We have a mission to save the world through the power of love. Yeah. The world needs healing desperately, like a bird with a broken wing. People know this, and millions have prayed. God heard us. He sent help. He sent you. Which, that I think really, really illustrates the principle of, well, God is love. That's a thing people say. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that is a message that exists, right? The one you just read, which is so powerful. I've heard it kind of in different ways at different times, and even in within the Christian community, you hear that. Mm. But it reminds me, for some reason, of remember the book that I sent you, The Paradoxes of Jesus, like one of our favorite books.
Oh yes.
That one, maybe I'll have to take that one on. Maybe give you a break,
Oh.
like somewhere in the middle of the year,
Oh, that would be fantastic.
because I love that book. You know how much I love that book.
It's a great one.
And the thing about that is there's a part in there where he kind of insinuates, if we just listen, to this strange man of the easy yoke, if we would just listen to this simple gospel instead of this complex, twisted, people doing all these scriptural, textual contortions and bending it in every way to try to control you and manipulate you to do what they want.
Mm.
And what you just read reminded me so much of that idea of, if we'd only just go for the golden rule, if we'd only just, take the Matthew 5, 6, and 7, and just, which is like the Beatitudes, and, bless those who curse, or love one another, that this like vibe of love, right? Of putting others before yourself, of this thing, and not twisting, because the danger to me is people take that stuff and they'll say and this is where I come from in the cult. It's like these beautiful concepts and they just desecrate them. Like that's what's interesting is, like, that is so holy, like what you just read to me.
Mm.
It's so holy. And why I have this these alarms go off all the time to show the other side is because people, we desecrate that because of our own selfishness, because of our own ambitions. Like you said, the money comes in and ruins the community. And it's counter, this real genuine selfishness, not the selfless that we talk about, but this genuine greed and selfishness just kicks the crap out of what you just read.
True.
It just does. And it's like, if we would just, and we know, and the thing is, we all know it, but systemically, institutionally, that it's like I'll give you an example, a quick example. Did you have more? Because I didn't want to jump in too hard.
Nope, that's all I got.
A quick example is one time I met a guy, and I was like deconstructing, all the bad religion that I had been through, and the cult and everything. And I met a guy, and I had told him, I had gone from the intellectual Christianity, the manipulative, from Spurgeon to whatever, to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I ended up where, like, the paradoxes of Jesus, the simple, I threw it all away. And I said, it's the simple, the love one. It really is. After you go crazy and you try to figure things out. And I felt like that was it. And I was telling, there's a preacher who helped me a lot during that time. His name is Wayne Monblau. He's got this show called Let's Talk About Jesus. He doesn't have a church. He's been on for like 40 something years. And he has this super grace-filled message, this uncomplicated. It's like when you put him on and you're in a cult or something, and you're looking for Jesus, it just soothes your soul. It's just like, oh, yeah, it is about love. It is about grace. It is. Oh, thank you for saying this. So I said that was my favorite guy to someone in a Christian circle. And he made me feel like he made me feel like I was just an infant in the faith. Like, oh yeah, I used to listen to him. And then he, I guess he was at a place where he got more complex. He got into, let's talk about this or that. And, I don't want to even say a bunch of big words for no point right now. So it would just ruin the conversation. I want to stay simple. And that made me realize, that's the trap. It's like, oh yes, love one another. Oh, good boy. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's how cute. That's your favorite guy. You haven't learned anything yet. That's so nice for you. Soon you'll get into the real meat. And the irony is, in those spiritual circles, what they think is meat, it's not.
Yeah.
They think meat is, hair splitting. Is it is it transubstantiation, or is it, Arminianism? Is it Calvinism? Is it, this hair splitting? They feel like that is this
real
intellectual pursuit.
Mm.
This pure intellectual pursuit of how to, from manipulating people to understanding scriptures and on and on and on. They think that's like the high epitome of being religious. Like, I can, let's proof text to each other and I'll win because I'm smarter and I'll explain to you what that really means. Ha 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 ha. And I'll quote church fathers, and we'll go to Augustine, and we'll go to Thomas Aquinas, and I'll take you all around, and I'll make you look foolish and like a dunce. They think that's the epitome.
Right.
And it's not. It's not. That's why Jesus says, be like the child.
Mm-hmm.
Be like the child. Child is excited about everything. People think being like and that's the thing. When you come from this capitalist, ambitious, oversaturated with success mindset, that's just cute foolery.
It is. Like it's the exact opposite of what they were professing to be.
You'd be like a child. Okay, great. You know what I mean? That's, but really that's everything. If you could actually be like a child, be excited about everything every day, be excited about everything's new, everything is possible. I mean, that's living, and it's this life. And I think that trying to, to be this like guy in the middle of Alexandria with your coat, with your big toga or whatever the hell they were wearing, and just shutting people down,
Yes.
It's like,
do you people realize?
Yeah, that becomes this proselytizing, this, this soapboxing. It just decimates things, See what we got. Rights and Wrongs podcast. Sorry about that.
I feel a lot of people see themselves in others. However, they interpret that you are all the same, all on the same path, not that we are all human. That's something, we've kind of just touched on before, Mike, that, the spiritual path is so individualized.
It's so individualized.
It's very difficult to tell anyone else what to do, really, at any point.
Yeah,
you can certainly have an opinion, but it's like ultimately up to the individual.
You just can't. It's unique. We're all unique, just like everyone else, and every path is completely unique. And it's an uncharted, unbeaten path, and you have to go inward to do it. So you're over there with your machete in your shit. In your crap, in what messed you up growing up, just
oh God,
and you're not listening to everything else. That's the real spiritual path. You're going in, and everything is out. It's out. It's it's these whitewashed tombs Jesus talked about. It's just you're dead inside, but outside you're phenomenal.
Everything's perfect.
Everything's gravy.
Well, to jump back a little bit, Mike, because you said, to a person who hears God as love and pushes back on that from a religious standpoint, like you said.
Yeah.
Also, I think commonly, people who are atheistic, secular, whatever, would push back on the God is love thing for the same reason of like, look, that's for babies, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm like, can you imagine what the average Wall Street banker thinks when he hears the phrase "God is love"? I feel like you're an idiot. That's not how this world works, okay?
Yeah.
And
one of those things.
And you want to say, well, no, it's actually this, or when you look into the text, or if you even honestly, sometimes it's like, well, when you study how lions are, so cutthroat, and in a pack of gorillas, there's the hierarchy and there's the alpha male, and and we're all based on this, and we're the same thing as that. So
yeah.
And complicated. Here's why, which I'm no expert, but I think that's what like Lucifer does, try and trick you with all these words and stuff.
That's why we need the devil.
That's correct. As you said, all the great wisdom is so simple. If we could be like children, we would have a sense of wonder and a sense of compassion constantly that we do not have largely as adults.
Yeah.
And I remain that it is true that the deepest wisdoms of life are simple. All the answers that we need to find are already out here. It's that there's too much noise and too much language, too much confusion that makes you feel like, oh God, we don't know anything and everything's horrible. And oh no, we've never even. Oh, folks, we're getting the glasses out. Now we know we're getting real here. That was a dramatic reveal of the glasses. I gotta start not wearing my glasses so I can be like, you know what? Let me check. Actually, hold on a second.
For those of you who listen on Apple or Spotify, you got to come check us out one day. It is kind of funny because there's a lot of stuff you're not going to get, and it's fun. I'm going to dare say, listen, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but it is a little bit fun to watch. It's great to listen, but I think it's a little fun to watch.
True. Plus, you can comment. You can always jump in.
Yeah, and I want to. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I want to just jump back to Rights and Wrongs podcast comment, which is English is a limited language. If not mistaken, we only have 27 words for emotions where others have hundreds. And
27 seems like a very small number.
It is. And also I'd like to add something.
I believe it's true, but
that because I got like one of my pet peeves is splitting thinking.
That's right.
Absolutely hate it. With a passion. But I think a part of like what I'm starting to learn is a part of our splitting thinking is part of our language. It's because, and I'm going to read this and I just wanted to say that before I read it, just to give it some context and everything we've been talking about. And even this comment, it's all leading in this direction. So it's like half a page. So, and there's 2 paragraphs, but they really hit on these things. Unlike European languages, which center around nouns, most Native American languages are dominated by sophisticated verbs. Some Algonquin, probably beat that up, but that's a tribe. Verbs, for example, have over 1,000 endings. Picture that. Running, 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 running. Imagine 1,000 of those.
Quite impressive.
That's pretty sophisticated, for what people, we used to call Indians, Native Americans. That's pretty damn sophisticated.
I would say so.
These languages portray a world of flux and change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love. Flux and change. This is not splitting thinking. This is not dogma. This is not a fixated thing. It's either this or that. It's either love or hate. It's either X or Y, It can't be both.
Right.
No, that's not the language here. And I love that. These languages portray a world of flux and change. Things are like temporary whirlpools in a flowing river of constant movement.
It is.
That's so nice.
That's what Watts calls it, by the way, a whirlpool.
Yeah, that's like a warm coffee. It's just just listen to that. It just doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel like you're in the right place?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, things are like temporary whirlpools in a flowing river of constant movement. Names, like the objects they represent, are not fixed. This is so cool. Check this shit out. An animal's name may vary from season to season as its coat or plumage changes. So your name as an animal changes depending on where you're at in your life as an animal.
Oh, that is cool.
That's freaking
so cool.
Talk about being in tune. Talk about being in, remember the 7-year thing? I think
oh yeah. David
brought that up of us changing and then I brought up what my dad told me about that.
That's right.
There it is. It's right there. A person's name may alter as they progress through the initiations of their life. So our names change as we progress. It is said that a man's life flows from his name like a river from its source. So your name is not just this fixed. That's what I want to emphasize here. For them, your name is not this fixed thing. You're Mike. That's it. That's who you are. And we, like Watts likes to say a lot too, we're who people told us we were.
Of course.
Right. So your name is the name we gave you.
Yeah, you didn't pick it.
Who you are is who we say you are within the family.
Mm-hmm.
You're this. You're the quiet one. You're the this.
Right.
You're the that. You're the troublemaker.
Mm-hmm. Constantly reinforced. And if you like step outside of your shoes, you're like, that's not you. That's not the real you.
There you go. Now, this is completely different. It's completely different. Objects exist only through their relationships with each other. Definitions are not rigidly held, but kept open-minded, like the sacred circle of the Blackfoot, which is always left partly open to allow in the unexpected or honor a forgotten spirit. Unlike Western logical thinking, I love this line, unlike Western logical thinking, with its mutually exclusive dichotomies, Native American thought stresses interrelatedness across categories, placing everything within the context of the whole. And this is the killer to Western thinking. Get ready. For the logical mind, for example, something is either a chair or is not a chair. But in a world seen in constant flux, a chair is a tree on its way to becoming broken bits of firewood.
Love that.
And I think that is it. That's like, you talk about, the bomb I never added because I just like to talk about doing stuff.
We'll get that soundboard going one day.
That needs bomb.
Yeah, right. Because
that's everything.
It illustrates a point so well. Maybe somebody's like, it's a chair. Look, I'm sitting in it. It's a chair. But it's
that's
about
what we fight about. That's our public. You just described our public discourse.
Yeah,
Eric,
exactly.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say, described our public discourse.
That's right. And I think the idea is like, if we were to have that level of understanding about something even so simple as a chair, it would require an overall conception of life to be much more like a holistic approach.
Yeah.
And this is a Watts thing too, honestly, where he talks about like, it isn't so much that you are a human as much as you are humaning. That we are all not necessarily, he says that's a very similar thing. We're not necessarily nouns as much as we are verbs. We are a process. We are a whirlpool where there's a center, but the things that flow in and out of it change frequently. That's I really dig that, man. I really, really dig that. And to think that, of course, like you said, the idea that Native American peoples were not as intellectual or not as smart as like, obviously been proven wrong time and time again. But that's a tremendous way. What is the book what book is it that you're reading there, Mike?
It's called, see if I'll put it up here for anybody watching, and then I'll read it for people listening. It's called Thorson's Principles of Native American Spirituality, Wananiche and Timothy Freke. Frake, I don't know how you say his last name. It's Freke. And then it says the only introduction you'll ever need. It's a nice short read. And it's wonderful. It's not like it's a lot. You know how I love the book I mentioned, Paradoxes of Jesus. You know how it's not very wordy, and even what's those great books, they happen to not be too wordy. Even Watts, although his mind is just magnificent to me.
True.
The way he gives it to you in the book and in anything else I've read, I mean, they're not big fat books.
No. They're
just these potent pieces of information. It's not very concerned about laying it out in a way that takes you over here, takes you over there, like, and wow, oh my God, you. He's amazing. It's not about that. It's just like someone who got this information and it did something great for them, and they just felt, I've got to share this.
Mm-hmm.
This is just great. And that's how this book is too. It's not really like, and that developed from
Right.
it's not that. It's just like giving you these jewels like that you can work with right now, and I like books like that.
Me too, man. And I also think, again, the deepest wisdom are simple things. They don't require 10,000 words to say. It's just like something your grandma says a lot. And actually, it's the most deepest wisdom you could possibly find.
Yeah.
And in terms of seeing, this is, again, kind of a Watts thing, but it's right in line with what you read there, Mike. That I think in chapter 2 in the book, he was mentioning how we think the whole world is, we have this automatic model of the world where it's all these individual little nouns. Let's say everything's a noun and they're all bashing their head against one another, and we have to control it. We have to desperately destroy our environment to conquer it so that we can get what we want.
Sorry, but damn it, the arrogance, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, by the way, we're destroying the entire planet by trying to do that. No small price to pay.
Which we mocked the natives for.
Exactly, right.
How, the very genuine way and natural way they saw things.
Right.
Like if you cut all these down, we need this.
Right. If we're going to kill a buffalo, let's use every possible part of it and like honor it as we are eating it.
Yeah,
as opposed to childishly and childishly killing them all and just getting rid of the whatever.
Yeah.
Insane. Colonialism has brought us into the Kali Yuga, the age of destruction. So, but yeah, when we have this automatic model, it's all these little bits. We have to conquer the nature. We think that there's causes and there's effects. They're two very different, separate things. One's a cause, one's an effect.
Now you're talking, Derek.
Now we're getting into science. And Watts describes it as a person who's looking through a very narrow slit in a fence. And this person sees a cat walk by. So they see the head first, and they see the middle, and they see the tail. So they're like, okay, I got it. The cat walks by again, head, middle, tail. One last time, head, middle, tail. So this person who's looking through the narrow slit says, okay, so when you see a head, it causes a tail. And so when you get a head, that's the cause, and the effect is a tail. When they don't realize that, well, if you knock the fence down, it's just a cat. It's all one thing. It's all one
I love that analogy.
motion.
That is such a great analogy.
And, to think that, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, like a truly selfish act is not possible because you cannot do anything that does not affect anyone or anything at all. You will have some ripple effect somewhere, even if it be small. And generally, I think it's quite larger than we realize or are willing to admit to ourselves. Well, I'm just going to do this thing for me. But you might be hurting someone else in doing that. And again, a part of you might know that, would be choosing to ignore it. That this incredible interconnectedness of this thing, the universe, God, life, needs to be reckoned with and needs to be honestly realized if we are to live peacefully, I suppose. I just love that image of the head-tailed cat, as Watts would put it. And it is true too, Mike. It's very interesting what we're circling around here, just about language. And I'm a big fan of Dick Gregory. He passed away a year or two ago. He's a very important comedian, civil rights leader. And I listened to a lot of his sort of radio show appearances later in his life. And one of the things he said was he talked a lot about the universal God. And he said, when I get off on a plane in Japan and I can't read a single sign there, I know that language, the universal God did not put that there. Because if all people can't understand it intuitively, that's not from the universal God. Which I think is an interesting point. And it is true that certain languages are more complex than others, The classic example, of course, always is that, that Arctic peoples have all these different words for snow, when the Aztecs were like rain, snow, wetness, sleet. It's all just one word because the climate's nice down there. Like we don't really,
wasn't important.
It's really not that important. I think the Germans have like 5 different words for anger or something. All these different kinds of anger. I don't know. I might have made that one up, but it is interesting, and I believe that's what I suppose the field of linguistics will kind of get into, is what culture sees what term is necessary. But ultimately, it is quite limiting. It's a bit of paradox, I suppose, that it's limiting in the sense that there's too much of it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm gonna go off on the deep end here.
Please do.
So it made me think of the story of the Tower of Babel, where all the languages were confused, and part of it was from ambition. And then I've never thought of this. This is one of those revelation to conversation moments where never looked at it this way, where perhaps it was, why do you need a separate language? Well, to keep what we're saying away from them knowing what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a competitiveness, I mean, listen, I'm not saying, that some people never got in touch with these other people and they made their own language. I'm just saying that make believe what I'm saying is a myth just to prove a point. There is a sense of ambition, keeping even sometimes little friends will come up with their own little language.
Sure,
so they can be in
course.
class and say something, and then no one else is like, they add something to the beginning of it, or they come up with these little codings just to keep us separate. So I feel like in that story, there's this like push to ambition to raise up this tower, to God type of thing. The languages get split from their ambition. And I think there's a lot that can be gleaned from that in a sense of, this war amongst each other using language, and then having completely different language. So we disconnect even more from who we're one, and this kind of, this can spring up like you said, why we need the devil, if there is like a devilish thing at play here, it certainly is that, because the more we believe what I see as a myth, that we're not one, that we don't affect each other, that they've got their language. When this guy shows up, he, Dick Gregory, when he gets to Japan and that revelation he had, I believe that is more in tune with what I'm following, which would be love, unity, oneness, not separateness, just distinctiveness, needing each other, affecting each other, being connected to source, that whole, Native American type of vibe where the body is just a shell of the earth and it comes off, but the spirit is still there, this unseen world, being real. And language it can be a uniter and it can be a separator. And I think that it's almost, it's kind of weird. It reminds me of like even the Bible, because some people, as we're seeing on this show, are led out of religion through the Bible.
Yes.
And some people go down the rabbit hole of more dogma and religion through it. And I think language maybe can be a little bit similar, because language can, let's put aside the scriptures for a second. Language can also be a uniter or a divider, but I think it depends on the lens you're looking at. And it's actually beautiful to see people like the Native Americans who saw everything connected and building a language upon that, versus the language that we're using, which saw disconnectedness, a sense of separateness, and ended up, in trying to dominate much of the world. and how even if it didn't start out that way, and maybe it started out differently, it ended up being used that way. So maybe even its original intent could have been different. And that's why I
True.
saw a similarity with the Bible where,
Mm.
it may have had this, but then, biblicists, this is, this and this is that, and trying to, impose this very strict literalist, teaching of it to kind of get their hooks on people, versus language too, like we can, if I say a certain word sometimes, which is why words start to become out of style,
Yeah.
you say something, so like we talked about safe space. There's so many things in our society that once we use it so much, it loses first off, it loses its original meaning because it's been repurposed by so many different groups from where it started.
Mm.
And it becomes useless, truthfully. And then we have to come up with a new word to say the same thing because that word doesn't mean what it means anymore. And then you have words like when Watts is using words in the English language that mean 5 different things.
Right.
That's an interesting one too. Like the same word, which is why people, like, for example, a Spanish speaker learning English is perplexed.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what? Are you serious? Like, there's nothing like that in Spanish. So they're like, that means this and then that. And then for the plural, on this specific word, you can't just put an S. You have to use a whole nother word. Like, there's no complete, I guess, I don't know, rule that there's always exceptions in this situation and that situation. So people find it a complex language in that way.
Rights and Wrongs agrees, by the way. I agree. For example, the UK has a huge gatekeeping by language culture in higher academia compared to the US education culture.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And yeah, I didn't know that either, but I do believe it. And hey, Jose, he's getting ready
What's
to do
up,
his
Jose?
show. Good
Yeah.
morning.
Courage to continue, guys. If you want to,
that's right. Our sister program.
Jump on Jose's
program.
page. He'll be streaming it live with Ivan in just a few minutes.
But yeah, I think it's a good point, Mike. That and gosh, yeah, it's a question of like, who is it that's often, let's say, inventing new language or using tons of words. Like regular middle and lower class people have always spoken like, have, in my opinion, used language to the proper extent, which is to communicate how you are feeling. But isn't it often, and look, I understand like education, academia is important. We've had very important breakthroughs, and we obviously can't drown that baby with that bathwater. However, I'm reading this book I mentioned last week called The Culture of Narcissism by Christopher Lasch. It's very good. It's very dense. He's basically criticizing almost every aspect of modern culture. And I'm understanding most of it, but I just kind of think that, like, look, I'm a guy of, let's say, average intelligence, maybe on a good day above average intelligence. And I am struggling to get through this. But I mean, it's like, you just read 2 paragraphs and you're like, I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah, I've been there.
But what I am getting from it is very deep and very important, very profound. And maybe I'm just an idiot, but what it does, the thought has occurred to me that if this person thinks this social criticism is so important,
I know where you're going.
Why wouldn't they put it in such a way that it was like highly accessible to people? If there is a very clear message about, well, this is bad, we shouldn't be doing this. Have you noticed that this is this way? Wouldn't you want to put it in such a way that the most amount of people could understand it?
Wouldn't you? Right. And you know what's been, and I was on the same wave as you, and you just cracked it open, because here's the thing. Maybe it's not for us.
Well, yeah,
Just throwing that out there. I'm not trying.
yeah.
Listen, don't start a conspiracy channel on my behalf. It's just a sentence. And I said maybe. I didn't say it is. But maybe it's not for us. And maybe because we happen to we I don't want to get us in trouble because I'm not supposed to talk about anything related to where I work, but I work in an international organization. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Probably the biggest one there is.
I think so.
Safe to say. And one thing I've noticed, and this is bouncing off of you because the experts of everything walk around in the building I work in. You name it, the experts are there at some point in a room talking. And I've heard plenty of them talk. And I'll say the language I hear them using, words, particular words. I'm not even going to go into what words, but you hear, because I don't want to go away from the message here. You hear these certain words in the hallways. You hear these certain words inside the documents. And it's my first time hearing them used that much. Then next thing you know, I'm at church. They're using those words. That's interesting. I'm watching TV. They're using those words. That's interesting. So these holders, of language, because they're at the top of the language food chain, I guess. They're they're academia. They're the experts. They write the books that the professors read to teach, and then they take that heavy language you're talking about, which is their jargon, and then they reinterpret it and try to make it simple for their students to get. And then they disseminate, and then by the time it gets to us, it's like, oh, okay. We're getting this message that started out only for them, because in every, even in Christianity, there's a funny thing we call it Christianese. It's a show. It's like a little joke, inside joke, and it's Christianese. It's like certain things that you have to be in it to understand. And I think that every group has it. And the garters of language. Why can't we just, without going nuts here, say, they're the ones who are initiating it. They're disseminating it, and their origin sources of it. Those books that you're talking about, was that an expensive book?
No, I believe it was less than $10.
All right, because most of those are like, $60.
Oh, you're talking about cultural narcissism?
No.
Yeah, no. That was it was about $20-$25.
All right, and it was used probably.
Yes.
Okay, it was probably originally those type of weighty books, with this language. They're
talk about gatekeeping.
They're also priced out of our range.
Sure. Okay.
And those are probably the only books that those people at that intellectual level will read. And to tell you the truth, the circles are so damn small, they're probably giving them to each other, and then charging $60 for the students. All the professors are probably just exchanging, like, here, and sending 10 copies. Why? Because not only are they at that point, they're disseminating in a sort of propaganda way,
right,
their take on something, so they have to probably, and then they make it high priced for anybody else. So there is something there. I mean, I've never thought about this in my life, to be quite honest with you, till just now. But I think we got a comment here. Want to do one more comment and then hit the road, because we are kind of
let me just say something real quick. Look, the invention of different languages and new terms and stuff like that. Did you want to throw this one up, Mike, here?
Yeah, I didn't even read it.
We hit it on it before. When a word is mis or overused to the point of dilution, that many people think the only solution is to create a new word or replace the former.
It happens. Yeah,
absolutely. And like some of that is natural. Like, obviously people in colonial Japan were not speaking to people in colonial America. So they have a different language. And sometimes new things emerge and we need to have a new term for it. That's natural. But that's aside from the question of what are the guiding principles of a society and who are the individuals disseminating those guiding principles. And obviously, education is important, but like Rights and Wrongs said, there's a certain gatekeeping to that will not only keep knowledge from people, but it will discourage people from seeking knowledge, be they deep truths or otherwise, and it will enable them to act selfish and, to bring it full circle, to not bring love into the world. So they say, well, look, I'm not a smart guy, so I could never really affect anything in the world, so I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to all the time. And that is very dangerous, and it's very much the world that we live in today, which is unfortunate.
And listen, I'd like to jump right in on that wave, because it also makes me think of, within a lot of religious circles, demonizing intellectualism, right? But it's because of splitting thinking. It's black or white. It's this or that. There's no colors and there's no gray. It's black or white. It's this or that. So they may see that side of intellectualism that we're talking about. And I, listen, if anyone wants to start a conspiracy, I'm not going to stop you. Tower of Babel. And then you can even think of the ivory tower that we talk about the intellectuals sitting on with privilege, sitting there.
Of course.
Ivory tower, Babel tower, languages split to separate people. I'm giving you the foundations of your conspiracy if you want to start one. Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But if you look at it, that kind of splitting thinking, the intellect is not evil. It's not terrible, but sure, it can be used for bad. And this is where I'm just trying to balance things out. The Bible, it's not evil. There's a lot of stories. There's some wild ideas about this really monster God, but then there's this also super grace-filled God that Jesus talks. You can basically take your pick. There's 100 roads in there to take.
Yes.
So it's not evil or good within itself. It's within you that you're going to take that. And I want to say, language is not evil within itself. The tower is not evil, and the separation is not evil. It's what happens with that, because that can even be flipped on its head and used in a way to unite. It's always going to end up, because the danger in conspiracies, and I know I was joking about it and everything, is that you point outward. The danger with religious people, they point outward. They're never digging in. They're never, really trying to transform themselves. They're trying to transform everyone else. It's like a job for them to worry about everyone else and do whatever they want. And that can happen in any context. And that's all I'm trying to highlight here. If you're going to be like, oh, they're evil, there's the language, it's a conspiracy, that guy's the devil, he's the Antichrist, and you're going to constantly be pointing outside, I'm just saying you can do it. I've even gave you a whole new conspiracy to start a whole YouTube channel. But all I'm saying is that's not an inward search. That's not anything inside. We got to put this up. We were going to end, but let's pop this up.
Well, as an atheist, I did want to say that I enjoyed the show for all belief systems. Atheist, Christian, and other has all suffer from gatekeeping to some extent that needs to be recognized.
And
well said, dear friend.
Well, we've been looking for an atheist to come on the show.
True.
And we believe in synchronicity.
Are we having a crossover episode right now?
And I think that if you'd like to come on our show, Rights and Wrongs podcast, we'd love to have you, because we feel the same way. And I'll even admit to you that I don't know if you know about the club. Geez, what's it called? The Club Whatever app, that everybody's on now.
Oh, Clubhouse.
I've been a quiet little fly on the wall in some atheist rooms. I would not interject because I didn't think it was right, because I'm not an atheist and I didn't think it was my place. But I got on from a genuine place. And I'll tell you, man, some of the most empathetic, caring, some of them willing to raise their children, even in faith, and let them decide. I mean, I've never heard that kind of empathy in religious circles, and that kind of so. I think from my perspective, I learned something by being a fly on the wall, and I think atheists got a bad rap. I think they're misjudged. I think they came to a conclusion, just like anyone else, and I really would love to have more of a dialogue with atheists, but not in a way to. Me and Derek talked about this already, so it's like basically me and Derek have kind of come to this conclusion, and I would love to do it not in a way to be like, I'm over here to prove that there's more than what we see, and or you're here to prove that there is nothing. It's just no, but to like really talk and to like to be brothers and sisters, to be together on this. I may view what the togetherness in a different way, and you may view it in another way, and that's fine. Like that's not even important, So if you'd like to come on the show, you can email us, Derek. What's our email on Gmail?
It's contentcontentny@gmail. I can reach out on Twitch too. Hopefully we can set something up because we've been meaning to do that.
I'd love that because we've been wanting to do that, and we have a slot open. I think it's maybe March 17th. What's he got?
The Rights and Wrongs process to explore rights, privileges, and misconceptions. So you are more than welcome on mine as well.
Hey.
Look at that. We're building community here on Content Content.
There we go.
Can't say we didn't. All right, Mike, we got to get the heck out of here. We're running way over time here.
Wait, but we can't leave without the leaving music.
This is true. So thank you to everybody who checked out the episode today. It'll be available tomorrow on Spotify, Apple, and all that stuff. Tuesday, I'll be back with chapter 4 of Alan Watts' The Book. Again, you can catch up on the earlier chapters on YouTube, or you could just jump right into chapter 4. Like I said, they're all individually quite nice. On Wednesday, who's on the Wednesday show this week, Mike?
We've got Bobby Bishop, an old friend of mine. He's a social worker. He's a interesting person and a good friend of mine. And he's one of the few people that were not judgmental towards me being a former secular artist when I came into the Christian world. And we've remained friends since probably 2005, 2004, maybe even. And just a great guy. I want to get into some stuff with him from a whole nother perspective within religious circles of someone who I found that was within those circles who never displayed any of that bad behavior that I'm so critical of. And so I thought it was cool. We're trying to even it out here. There's not, and that's the other thing too. There's not all bad actors within those circles. Within every circle, and that's why I thought it was important to have Bobby on, because that's going to be a whole nother take on the situation of someone from within it who sees what's going on and chose to have a different take on it.
Yes.
So I thought that was kind of a good idea.
Well, I think that's going to be another great episode, Mike. We did some good work here today, and happy Valentine's Day, man.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you, and happy anniversary to my wife again. 21 years.
Woo!
And happy anniversary to Content. 1 year.
1 year.
All right. we're still honeymooning here.
That's right.